Hi there, my name is Caitlin Bandy and this is my channel Bandy's Books, and today we are talking May TBR, and let me tell you, I am so excited about my reading this month. There's a readathon this month that I've been really looking forward to getting into. We have Mental Health Awareness Month, we have Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and I've got a lot of really great reading planned for all of it. So before we get into my pile of possibilities, I want to start by saying something that I think you all have come to expect from me by now. And that is I've picked out way too many books this month. You're going to see the stack of books that I have and you're going to be like, Caitlin, why do you do this to yourself every single month? You have more than you're going to be able to read. And yeah, I agree. But this month is a little bit weird, but just because this is coming up, I wanted to mention it briefly in a little bit more detail. And that's that I'm having surgery May 13th. I have stage 4 endometriosis. It is all throughout my body. This is typically a disorder that affects predominantly your reproductive organs and sometimes like your bowels and digestive tract. In my case, it has grown into my diaphragm and is potentially in my lungs, which can cause monthly lung collapse if it is not fixed. So I am going to be having a fairly large surgery on the 13th of May. I will be having a hysterectomy. I am going to be having diaphragmatic excision, bladder and ureter excision, pelvic cavity cleanup, and possibly bowel resection. We will also have exploratory surgery on my lungs, kidneys, and livers to make sure that the endometriosis hasn't spread that far as well. So I will be in the hospital for a couple days post-op, and then I'm going to be out of work for 6 to 8 weeks, depending on how my body recovers from this major surgery. So how that affects this reading and why I'm telling you about that is because if my channel or my reading habits are a little bit erratic this month, it's because I don't know what to expect, honestly. I've had 2 surgeries before and I always recover really well from surgery. I usually beat all of the timelines and expectations of my doctors. And I'm feeling really positive going into all of this. I have a really fantastic team of specialists. I actually have 4 specialists that are coming together to do this surgery. So all of that's wonderful. But how that affects my reading is that I just don't know if I'm gonna wanna read a lot or I'm not gonna wanna read at all. I anticipate obviously, a higher level of pain post-op initially, and I will be taking some medication to deal with that. But I don't know if I'm gonna feel really sleepy and lethargic and just wanna rest, or if I'm gonna be like, hey, I'm stuck in bed, I might as well read. So I've picked out a pretty wide variety of books, probably more than I could read even if I just laid in bed the whole entire month. But that way I'm prepared for whatever happens. I have stuff to read if I'm like in a light, fluffy mood. I have stuff to read if I need something heavier that, is a little more cathartic. And if all I wanna do for a week or 2 is just lay around and read, then I have plenty of books to keep me occupied. So with that announcement out of the way, let's jump into the stuff that you're actually here for, and that's the books. The readathon that I mentioned being really excited about is Miserably, and that's being hosted by Gemma at Gem of Books and Scott over at Gunpowder Fiction and Plot. This is one of my favorite readathons of the year. I participated in Miserably last year and it was really enjoyable. I know that seems strange to be excited about reading books that are miserable, but I find that kind of a cathartic process. It helps you get out some of the emotions that you have trapped inside there. So I have a handful of books specifically for Miserably. Now that's not to say that these are the only books that might fit into the Miserably prompts. I have a whole bunch of books for AAPI Heritage Month, and I'm sure that some of them will fit into the Miserably theme as well, but these ones that I have here are specifically with Miserably in mind. So first of all, I am going to be participating in the group read, which is Bodies of Light by Jennifer Down. And this is a book that I have seen recommended by Scott before. I know that it is about a woman and some trauma that she's been through, and some of her secrets are revealed, and that brings some of that trauma to light and kind of forces her to deal with it. I've heard it is just emotional gut punch after gut punch, and I'm a little hesitant about it, but also looking forward to doing the group read. I'm also going to be reading When Things Are Alive, They Hum by Hannah Bent. And this is a book that I saw on Scott's channel as a recommendation quite a while back and have been wanting to read for the longest. And this is about 2 sisters. I think parents are out of the picture. One of the sisters has Down syndrome and she needs a heart transplant, but she is denied the heart transplant by the medical community due to her disability. And so I think there is a big discussion about how these types of decisions are made and what lives are considered valuable by medical professionals. I think there is also an aspect of the story that focuses on the sister who who needs a transplant and her concerns that if she gets a new heart, she won't be the same person. This sounds like a just emotionally wrecking type of a book. I love a book that has really deep themes, and this looks like it's going to explore a lot of really difficult topics. This is probably the book that I'm most looking forward to on my Misery May TBR. Then I have A Burning by Megha Majumdhar, and this is a book that follows 3 different characters. Their stories kind of intertwine. We have one character who is accused of a terrorist attack on a subway due to a Facebook post. We have another character who's an opportunistic gym teacher whose rise is dependent on the first character's fall. And then we have a third character who dreams of being a Bollywood superstar and might just have the information that would free the first character. I've heard that this is a gut-wrenching book as well. I've had it on my shelf for quite a while, so I'm looking forward to finally getting to it this year. And then I have 10 minutes, 38 seconds in This Strange World by Elif Shafak. This is a book that I saw as a recommendation for Misery May and that I heard is just brutal. This is basically the story of the last 10 minutes and 38 seconds of a woman's life. She is murdered and left in a dumpster, and as her consciousness is kind of floating away from her body, we're getting her recollections. I love Elif Shafak's writing. I've read some of her books previously, and this sounds like it's going to be horrific, but also I imagine really well written. After that, I have House of Sand and Fog by Dubus III. So this is one of those books when you hear people talk about the most depressing books they've ever read, that gets brought up very frequently. I have heard this recommended many times as a really, really sad, tragic book. I think that this book centers around a conflict over a house. We have an Iranian family that purchases a house on an auction. And then we have the ex-owner of the house who's a drug addict, an alcoholic, doesn't want to let the house go. And her boyfriend is a cop who's willing to kind of do anything to make her happy. So I think that the two sides of this story kind of clash over this house. So I've also had this one on my shelf for a long time. I'm looking forward to getting to it, although again, I think it's going to be kind of brutal. Then I have The Dream Builders by Oindrila Mukerjhee. This is a book that I got from Aardvark quite a long time ago and have been meaning to read, and I'm hoping to finally get to it this month. This follows a character named Monica Roy who returns home to India to mourn the loss of her mother and finds herself in a whole new world. Ultimately, it will take an unexpected tragic event for Monica and those around her to finally understand just how fragile life is in this city built on aspirations. So I don't know that this one will be necessarily quite as dark as some of the other ones. I haven't heard that much about it, but the topics sound pretty heavy, like loss of mom, tragic events that reshape one's viewpoints. And I love this cover. I'm really looking forward to getting to this. And my final book specifically for Misery May is The Astonishing Color of After by Emily X. Harpan. This is another book that I hear is just a heartbreaker. And what I know of it is that it is about a young girl coming to terms with her mother's suicide. So she believes when her mother committed suicide that she became a bird. And I think that this is kind of all the complex jumble of emotions that's left in the wake of this type of a tragedy. I have had people tell me that this book just made them outright sob. Another book that's been on my shelf for quite a while. So hopefully I will get to it this month. All right, and May is also Mental Health Awareness Month. So I wanted to pick up a couple books with a specific focus of mental health. So I have Mask Off by J.J. Bola, which is about masculinity redefined. You can see that this is a very short read, and it's just talking about toxic masculinity and how the world teaches men that they're supposed to behave. And I think it's kind of unpacking all of that. This isn't a topic that I've read a ton about, but it is a topic that I feel as a woman, you really can't not know about it. So I'm curious to see what J.J. Bola has to say about it. Then I have Everything Calls for Salvation by Daniele Mencarelli. And this is a book about a young man who wakes up in a hospital. Slowly his memories come back to him in a spiral of anxiety and violence and anger. He has this explosion so intense that it almost inflicts irreparable damage on him and his family. To his horror, he learns he's been sentenced to a week of mandatory treatment in a psychiatric ward. I've heard really good things about this. I think this was also recently made into a movie or a miniseries, if I'm not mistaken. And so my final pick for Mental Health Awareness Month is While You Were Out by Meg Kissinger, an intimate family portrait of mental illness in an era of silence. So at the Kissinger family, there's 8 children and the 2 parents, so 10 total. And out of those 10 people, a whole bunch of the family members are struggling with different types of mental illness. Mom is heavily medicated and hospitalized for anxiety and depression. Father is manic and prone to violence. And the children are in the throes of bipolar disorder and depression, 2 of whom would end up taking their own lives. Through it all, the Kissingers face the world with their signature dark humor and the unspoken family rule, never talk about it. So I'm really interested in reading this. I think not only is it important to talk about mental health issues, but to recognize that suffering in silence doesn't improve the situation. If anything, it is detrimental. And so I am really interested in this one. All right, so now we're going to get into my books for AAPI Heritage Month. And I have a lot of books to talk about, so we're gonna move through these relatively quickly. Again, I don't anticipate reading every single one of these books this month, but what I've been finding is working really well for me in terms of knocking books off my TBR is creating a pretty generous pile of possibilities and then mood reading within those books. So in this stack, you'll see I have books from all sorts of genres, all sorts of moods. So there's literally something for every day of the month if I want it. So first up, I have Native Speaker by Chang-Rae. This is an author that I have been meaning to read for the longest time. I have My Year Abroad on my TBR as well. And this is about Korean American Harry Park, who is a surreptitious B+ student of life, illegal alien, emotional alien, neo-American stranger, follower, traitor, spy, or so says his wife in the list she writes upon leaving him. Henry is forever uncertain of his place, a perpetual outsider looking at American culture from a distance. And now, a man of two worlds, he is beginning to fear that he has betrayed both and belongs to neither. Sounds really good. I'm looking forward to trying Lee's writing for the first time. And then I have The Ghost Bride and the Night Tiger by Yangsze Choo. I read Choo for the first time like a month ago. I read her book, The Fox Wife, and really enjoyed it. I like the way that she includes magical realism, uses like Chinese mythological stories, and creates some really interesting stories. So I had The Night Tiger on my shelf for a long time, and my mom recently brought me her copy of The Ghost Bride because she thought I would like that. So I have both of these on my TBR this month. The Ghost Bride is set in Malaya, 1893. Li Lan, the daughter of a genteel but bankrupt Chinese family, has few prospects. But fate intervenes when she receives a proposal from the wealthy and powerful Lim family. They want her to become a ghost bride for the family's only son, who died under mysterious circumstances. Rarely practiced, ghost marriages are often meant to placate a restless spirit. Such a union would guarantee Li Lan a comfortable home for the rest of her days, but at what cost? So that one sounds fantastic. I'm really curious to hear about what a ghost marriage means. And then The Night Tiger follows quick-witted, ambitious Jilin, who is stuck as an apprentice dressmaker, moonlighting as a dance hall girl to help pay off her mother's mahjong debts. But when one of her dance partners accidentally leaves behind a gruesome souvenir, Jilin plunges into a dark adventure, a mirror world of secrets and superstitions. Sounds fantastic as well. Again, I really enjoyed The Fox Wife, and so I'm hoping that The Night Tiger and The Ghost Bride will be, solid reads for me as well. And then I have Star Daughter by Shveta Thakrar. The daughter of a star and immortal, Shidul is used to keeping secrets, but when her starfire accidentally injures her human father, Shidul needs a full star's help to heal him, a star like her mother, who returned to the sky years ago. So this is a book that's been on my radar for quite a while. I haven't heard that many reviews of it, and the ones that I have heard of it have been kind of like mixed, but I think that this sounds like such an interesting concept, and I want to give it a try. I happened to find this in a little free library like a couple weeks ago, and I was like, I think this is a sign that I should test this out. Then I have Trinity, Trinity, Trinity by Erika Kobayashi. So this is a book that is set 9 years after the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant disaster. Japan is preparing for the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, and all of a sudden, this strange plague kind of sets across Japan. All of these elderly people start to hear voices, and it is a symptom of a disease called Trinity. As the details about the disease come to light, we encounter a thread of linked histories. So I think this is kind of more literary speculative. I have not read Kobayashi before. This is a translated work, but I'm looking forward to checking this out. And then I have a book that should break up some of the heavier reading that I'm doing this month, and that's Emergency Contact by Mary H.K. Choi. This follows characters Penny Lee and Sam. They're both feeling kind of stuck with where they're at in life, but their paths cross, and it's less meet cute and more of a collision of unbearable awkwardness. Still, they swap numbers and stay in touch via text, and soon become digitally inseparable, sharing their deepest anxieties and secret dreams without the humiliating weirdness of having to, see each other. So this sounds really good. I like that this is kind of like a online relationship. I feel like sometimes the best friendships are formed via online contact. So I'm curious to read this one. And then I have Things We Lost the Water by Eric Nguyen. This is about a Vietnamese family that settles in New Orleans, and father has been left behind in Vietnam, and soon mother becomes aware that the father is never going to be able to join them, and she grieves his loss. And then while she's dealing with, you know, all of this family dynamics and her two sons rebelling and growing up and all that, they're hit with a massive flood. I've heard pretty good things about this book and I have had it on my TBR for a bit. I'm looking forward to getting to it this month. And then I have After Parties by Anthony Vyazna So. This is a short story compilation about what it means to be Cambodian American. And unfortunately, Vyazna So has passed away since writing this book, but this is a short story compilation that I have heard really resonates with so many different people. I'm really looking forward to getting into this, and I think this story is set in California, so for me, it'll be kind of familiar as well. And then we have We Measure the Earth with Our Bodies by Sering Yangzom Lama. In the wake of China's 1959 invasion of Tibet, Lama and her young sister Tenki arrive at a refugee camp in Nepal. They survive the dangerous journey across the Himalayas, but their parents did not. As Lamo, hunted by the loss of her homeland and her mother, a village oracle, tries to rebuild a life amid a shattered community, hope arrives in the form of a young man named Samphel, whose uncle brings with him an ancient statue of the nameless saint, a relic known to vanish and reappear in the times of need. So I was drawn into this book because it is specifically about Tibet. I haven't found a whole lot of books that talk about Tibet, about the Chinese invasion of Tibet, and this sounds like a really interesting topic. I think this also is going to go into immigration and like that conflict of moving to a new country when you still long for your home country. I've heard pretty good things about this and I'm looking forward to getting into it. Then I have Disorientation by Elaine Hasse Choo. This is a book that has also been on my radar for a long time, but I only just picked up a copy a couple weeks ago. This follows 29-year-old PhD student Ingrid Yang, who is desperate to finish her dissertation on the late canonical poet Zhao Wenchu and never read about Chinesey things again. But after 4 years of grueling research, she has only anxiety and stomach pain to show for her efforts. When she accidentally stumbles upon a strange and curious note in the Choo archives, she convinces herself it's her ticket out of academic hell. This sounds really interesting and relatable. I'm looking forward to getting into that. Then I have Land of Milk and Honey by Sipam Zhang, and this is a dystopian fiction. We have a main character who's a chef, which I'm like both excited and nervous about, just because I feel like a lot of times people don't get chefs right. Basically, in this dystopian world, there is like an environmental catastrophe that is preventing the world from growing adequate food sources. And so our main character, who is a chef, is really struggling to do her job. And then she's hired to this elite area where there is an abundance of food and she has to remember how to cook with it again. This sounds really interesting. I've heard very mixed reviews about this book. I still want to go into it with an open mind just because I find this topic to be fascinating. I'm really hoping that for me, this is going to be a hit. Then I have The Leavers by Lisa Ko. This is another book that has been sitting on my physical TBR for a very long time and I keep meaning to get to. So one morning, Deming Guo's mother, Polly, an undocumented Chinese immigrant, goes to her job at a nail salon and never comes home. No one can find any trace of her. With his mother gone, 11-year-old Deming is left mystified and bereft. Eventually adopted by a pair of well-meaning white professors, Deming is moved from the Bronx to a small town upstate and renamed Daniel Wilkinson. But far from all he's ever known, Daniel struggles to reconcile his adoptive parents' desires that he assimilate with his memories of his mother and the community he left behind. This sounds very emotional and moving as well. Maybe something that fits for Miserably as well. Then I have The Tea-Girl of Hummingbird Lane by Lisa C. I have read several books by Lisa C. You can see behind me, I have Lady Tan's Circle of Women right here. This was one of the books that I really enjoyed last year. And I also have read The Island of Sea Women, which I really enjoyed as well. So I'm hoping that this one is gonna likewise be a hit for me. It says that this is a powerful story about two women separated by circumstance, culture, and distance, and the enduring connection between mothers and daughters. I love the cover of this too. I think it's really a pretty book. So hoping to get into this one this month. Then I have Beautiful Country by Qian-Julie Wang. In Chinese, the word for America, Mei Guo, translates directly to beautiful country. Yet when 7-year-old Qian arrives in New York City in 1994, full of curiosity, she is overwhelmed by crushing fear and scarcity. In China, Qian's parents were professors. In America, her family is illegal and it will require all the determination and small joys they can muster to survive. This sounds like it's going to be a really poignant read. I have had this on my TBR for quite a long time, but I only recently picked up a copy of it and I'm looking forward to diving into this. I really enjoy reading memoirs from the perspective of somebody immigrating to the United States. So I think this will be a really good read for me. Then I have Severance by Ling Ma. Candace Chen, newly minted New Yorker, first-generation American, recent orphan, millennial worker bee, loves going to work. She likes the routine and the anonymity of the city. She likes coordinating the production of specialty Bibles, having a project to complete, an object to create, trouble to shoot. Sometimes she likes watching movies in her boyfriend's basement apartment. Lather, rinse, repeat. So Candace barely notices when Shen fever sweeps New York. Families flee. Companies cease operation. The subways squeak to a halt. Persuaded by a big payout to be a one-person skeleton crew at the office, she spends her free time photographing the abandoned city as an anonymous blogger, NY Ghost. Eventually, though, Candace will have to escape from Manhattan, enter a group of survivors led by the power-hungry IT specialist named Bob. They're traveling to a place called the Facility, where Bob promises they will have everything they need to start society anew. But Candace is guarding a secret Bob will certainly exploit. Will her rescuers become her captors? So this sounds really interesting. There is a lot going on just in that description alone. I have heard not that much about this book, but what I have heard has been pretty good. I love a good, quirky, interesting story, so I'm looking forward to getting into this. We are slowly closing in on the end of my stack here. So then I have Age of Vice by Deepti Kapoor. So this is set in New Delhi at 3 a.m. A speeding Mercedes jumps the curb, and in the blink of an eye, 5 people are dead. It's a rich man's car, but when the dust settles, there is no rich man at all. Just a shell-shocked servant who cannot explain the strange series of events that led to this crime, nor can he foresee the dark drama that is about to unfold. I have been meaning to read this one for a while, so I found this beautiful hardcover copy of this in a little free library quite a while back. And then I was sent a paperback copy by the publisher as they were doing a paperback release. And I am excited to finally get to it. It sounds really good. I love a good like mystery whodunit kind of situation. And then I have The Bandit Queens by Parini Shroff. This is another one of those books that I have been meaning to get to. Honestly, when this first came out, I was super excited about it. I love the cover. I love the topic of this book. I went out and purchased a copy and was really excited to read it. And then it kind of got put on my shelves and got forgotten about for a while. 5 years ago, Geeta lost her no good husband, as in she actually lost him. He walked out on her and she has no idea where he is. But in her remote village in India, rumor has it that Geeta killed him, and it's a rumor that just won't die. As it happens, being known as a self-made widow comes with some perks. No one messes with Geeta, harasses her, or tries to marry her. It's even been good for her business. No one dares to not buy her jewelry. Freedom must look good on Geeta because now other women are asking for her expertise, making her an unwitting consultant for husband disposal. Sounds like a fantastic plot for a story. I am very excited about this one. I can't wait to dive in. After that, I have Dragon Fruit by Mikhail Lussier. This is a pretty new book. It just released with Book of the Month last month, and it wasn't on my radar at all. It was a book, in fact, I had never heard of, even though I do all this new release research. So I was caught off guard a little bit. But I've been really feeling like the pirate vibe since I read The Adventures of Mina al-Sarafi, and so I'm hoping that this is gonna like fill that craving for me. Hanali of Tamarind is the cherished daughter of an old island family, but when her father steals a sea dragon egg meant for an ailing princess, she is forced into a life of exile. In the years that follow, Hanali finds solace in studying the majestic sea dragons that roam the Nami Nami Sea, until one day an encounter with a female dragon offers her what she desires most, a chance to return home and to right a terrible wrong. Sounds fantastic. I love dragons. I love fantasy. This sounds like it has a ton of elements that I'll really enjoy. And again, with so many heavy books on my TBR this month, I'm glad to have something that might be a little bit lighter. Then I have The Leftover Woman by Jean Kwok. This is a book that I picked up through Book of the Month a few months back and am really excited about. Jasmine Yang arrives in New York City from her rural Chinese village without money or family support, fleeing a controlling husband on a desperate search for the daughter who was taken from her at birth. Another female casualty of China's controversial one-child policy. But with her husband on her trail, the clock is ticking and she's forced to make increasingly risky decisions if she ever hopes to be reunited with her daughter. Meanwhile, publishing executive Rebecca Whitney seems to have it all, a prestigious family name and the wealth that comes with it, a high-powered career, a beautiful home, a handsome daughter, and an adopted Chinese daughter that she adores. She's even hired a nanny to help her balance the demands of being a working wife and mother. When an industry scandal threatens to jeopardize not only Rebecca's job but her marriage, this perfect world begins to crumble and her role in her own family is called into question. That sounds fantastic. I think these two stories are going to interweave, and I think we're going to get a pretty emotional story here as well. I'm looking forward to getting into this. Then we have Slow Noodles by Shantha Nguyen, a Cambodian memoir of love, loss, and family recipes. So this is a book that I just recently picked up. I actually had requested an ARC of this on NetGalley and was denied, and I was just heartbroken because everything about this book screams that I would love it. In Slow Noodles, Shantha Nguyen recounts her life as a Cambodian refugee who loses everything and everyone, her home, her family, her country, all but the remembered tastes and aromas of her mother's kitchen. She summons the quiet rhythms of 1960s Battambang, her provincial hometown, before the dictator Pol Pot tore her country apart and killed more than 1 million Cambodians, many of them ethnic Vietnamese like Nguyen and her family. Then as an immigrant in Saigon, Nguyen loses her mother, brothers, and sister sisters and eventually flees to a refugee camp in Thailand. For 2 decades in exile, she survives by cooking in a brothel, serving drinks in a nightclub, making and selling street food, becoming a suture nurse, and weaving silk. Sounds like it's going to be a really heartbreaking book, but also like a story of overcoming all of these difficulties. One of the things that I really love about this book is that there are recipes like interspersed throughout the book. And I don't know a whole ton about Cambodian food, so I'm really excited to try out some of these recipes. I'm thinking that I actually might do a video where I talk about this book and kind of make some of the recipes from it. I'm really, really excited about this. This might be one of the books that I am most looking forward to. Then I have Among Tigers, Fighting to Bring Back Asia's Big Cats by K. Ullas Karanth. For over 5 decades, K. Ullas Karanth has been engaged in the struggle to conserve wild tigers in India, their last remaining wild stronghold. He tells the story of the tiger itself, its incredible biology, its critical role in shaping natural ecosystems of Asia, and the unique place it holds in our collective imagination. This sounds really good. So I love big cats. Tigers fascinate me. Conservation is a subject that's very near and dear to my heart. How we can keep animals from going extinct and preserve what we have left of nature is really, really important to me. This is a book that I think will be a really meaningful read. Then I have Banyan Moon by Tao Tai. This is a sweeping, evocative debut novel following 3 generations of Vietnamese American women, revealing the family's inherited burdens, buried secrets, and unlikely love stories. This is another one that I picked up from Book of the Month, and I have heard pretty good things about this. I'm looking forward to getting into it. And finally, we have Tomb Sweeping by Alexandra Chang. This is a short story collection, and it says, "It is compelling and perceptive. Tomb Sweeping probes the loyalties we hold to relatives, to strangers, and to ourselves. In stories set across the US and Asia, Alexandra Chang immerses us in the lives of immigrant families, grocery store employees, expecting parents, and guileless lab assistants." I haven't heard much about this book. This was released by Book of the Month at the beginning of the year. I haven't seen really too many reviews, but it sounds really interesting. I love the cover of this. And I've been on a roll with short story collections this year, so I'm hoping this will be another fantastic one. So in addition to this TBR, I am also reading for the current round of the Booktube Prize. I had 6 books for this round. I had already read one of the books prior to this round starting. I am just about finished with the second book. So that leaves me 4 books to finish before the end of the month. Luckily, all 4 of those books are relatively short, so I think I should be able to move through them pretty quickly, but it's still 4 more books to read on top of what I have here. So I know that that's kind of crazy, and I'm sure like you're probably already like rolling your eyes at, you know, the fact that I have no chill when it comes to picking out books. But if you like the video, hit the thumbs up, comment down below, and let me know all of the things about your May TBR. What are you reading? What do you have planned? Let me know what you think of my TBR. Have you read any of these books? And if you have read any of those books, please tell me all the things in the comments. Let me know if you liked them, disliked them, whatever you want to share with me is great. And if you're not already subscribed to this channel, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button down below, as well as the notification bell, so that you never miss a video. And that way we can see each other again soon. Thanks so much for joining. Bye.